Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into a pretty fundamental choice in the mobile world. Do you go for ultimate digital freedom or maximum digital security?
Yeah, it's a big one. We're looking at sources comparing Linux phones like Pine Phone and Librem 5 against GrapheneOS running on Google Pixel hardware.
And these aren't just different products, are they? They
Yeah.
represent like totally different philosophies.
Exactly. Linux phones are all about user freedom, digital sovereignty, having real control over the hardware and open source software. Think physical control.
Okay, freedom and control.
Whereas GrapheneOS is laser focused on maximum security and privacy through really strong technical enforcement. It's a hardened version of Android's open source base.
Right, so technical hardening versus that physical sovereignty idea. Our mission then is to unpack these differences, figure out which one might fit your needs, your personal threat model.
Let's start with the security architecture. This is maybe the biggest dividing line, the Great Divide, as you called it. And honestly, this is where Linux phones currently show their biggest weakness: maturity. They essentially run desktop Linux kind of squeezed onto a phone.
Squeezed onto a phone. What does that mean practically for security?
Well, it means the security model is, well, it's just not mature for mobile threats. Key things are missing, like verified boot isn't really there in the same robust way.
Mm-hmm.
And the huge one is app sandboxing. It's often minimal or non-existent.
Wait, no sandboxing. So if I install like one bad app,
That app could potentially read almost all your data, your
Yeah.
contacts, files, everything. It's running with broad permissions, much like a desktop program could. That's a massive risk on a device you carry everywhere.
yikes. Okay, that sounds pretty serious. So how does GrapheneOS compare? The sources call it state-of-the-art.
It really is. It builds on the strengths of the Android security model, which is already quite strong with app isolation, and then hardens it significantly.
But it runs on Google Pixel phones, right? Using Google's proprietary Titan M security chip. Doesn't that kind of undercut the whole control aspect?
That's the core trade-off, yeah. GrapheneOS leverages that secure hardware, the Titan M chip, because it provides a really strong foundation for things like verified boot and key management. It physically protects against tampering.
So you use the hardware for better security.
Exactly. The GrapheneOS developers then add layers on top: a hardened kernel, improved memory safety, stricter policies, and they often get security patches out even faster than Google does for Pixels.
Okay, so Linux phones, open, controllable, but maybe digitally vulnerable right now. GrapheneOS lockdown, technically secure, but relies on that specific hardware. Let's shift to privacy then. How do they approach protecting your data?
This is another fascinating contrast. Linux phones often lean into physical privacy controls.
Physical, you mean the hardware kill switches?
Precisely. On phones like the Librem 5, you have physical switches. You flick one and you have like 100% certainty that the modem is off, or the camera, or the microphone. They're electrically disconnected.
No software override possible.
Right. Plus, the cellular modem is often on a separate chip, isolated from the main processor, which theoretically reduces the attack surface. It's a very tangible approach to privacy.
Okay, tangible certainty. What's a GrapheneOS way? More technical, I assume.
Yep, purely technical. First off, no Google services run by default. It's a clean slate. But the real game changer, for usability anyway, is Sandbox Google Play.
Sandboxed Google Play. How does that work?
It lets you install Google Play services and therefore almost any Android app that needs them. Think banking apps, ride sharing, the stuff people really need. But crucially, it runs those Google services inside the standard Android app sandbox. They don't get special system privileges like they do on a normal Android phone.
So you can run the apps you need, but Google doesn't get deep system access.
Exactly. It's a huge win for practical privacy. Plus, GrapheneOS gives you fine-grained controls, like denying network access per app or controlling sensor access. Technical enforcement.
Okay, that makes sense. Practicality versus purity, almost. Which brings us to usability. How do they stack up as, actual phones?
Yeah, this is where the difference becomes maybe starkest for the average user. The sources consistently describe Linux phones as hobbyist or developable devices. Meaning app support is very limited. You're often running adapted desktop Linux apps or experimental compatibility layers for Android apps that frankly are barely usable for most things. Battery life is often poor, performance isn't great, general polish is lacking.
So not really a replacement for your main phone yet.
Not for most people, no. It's for enthusiasts who are willing to put up with a lot of rough edges for the sake of the ideology and control.
And GrapheneOS.
The sources paint a very different picture. It's described as a 100% stable, fast daily driver. It runs basically all Android apps smoothly because it is Android, just a heavily secured and de-Googled version. You don't sacrifice day-to-day usability.
Okay, so performance, apps, stability, GrapheneOS wins there easily based on these sources.
Pretty clearly, yes. So summing it up, the target users are quite distinct. Linux phones appeal to FOSS purists, people prioritizing that hardware sovereignty above all else, even if it means sacrificing modern security features and app compatibility.
The ideologists, maybe.
Right. Whereas GrapheneOS is for users whose main concern is protection against sophisticated digital threats, malware, exploits, tracking, while still needing a phone that, well, works reliably as a modern smartphone.
So the takeaway seems pretty clear, at least for now. The sources seem to conclude that for, 99.9% of users, GrapheneOS offers a vastly more secure, private, and usable package today.
That's the pragmatic reality presented, yes. It addresses high-level digital threats effectively right now.
Right.
But here's something to mull over. While GrapheneOS is the practical choice today, the Linux phone projects, even in their current immaturity, are doing something vital. They're pushing the boundaries of computing freedom and open hardware.
Keeping that dream alive.
Exactly. So the question isn't just which is better now. It's also, what might the mobile landscape look like if or when that fully open Linux stack does mature? When it finally achieves competitive security alongside its openness. That long-term potential is why those projects, despite their current flaws, are still incredibly important to watch.